Kaiju number 9 unleashed abominations all over Japan, and today the Defense Force is going to have to go all out just to stop the country from being completely obliterated. So buckle up, because the finale of this episode is absolutely jaw-dropping. Kafka flashes back to a traumatic day from his childhood. A 6.7 fortitude Kaiju decided to drop in like it owned the place. Chaos everywhere, buildings crumbling, civilians screaming, and tiny Kafka and Mina running for their lives. That is, until Mina faceplants mid-sprint. Kafka slaps on the fakest smile in history. "We're totally fine. No big Kaiju trauma happening here." But before he can finish pretending, a shockwave smashes the building. He dives for cover, and when he opens his eyes, Mina's gone. Then boom, cut to the present. Armed soldiers aiming their guns. But instead of blasting some beast, we see Mina standing on a rooftop, looking like a boss, aiming her weapon right at Kafka. She calls him Kaiju number 8 and gives the order to fire. Bullets fly from every angle, but Kafka just gets knocked back a little, like he is being hit with Nerf guns. Then he snaps. He goes full beast mode and blasts a massive energy beam that destroys a helicopter like it was made of paper. Everyone freaks out. His fortitude is off the charts. He fires another blast, turning the scenery into rubble. But plot twist, he wakes up, just a nightmare. Kafka sighs in relief, then immediately falls off the bed like a sleep-deprived toddler. Meanwhile, at the Defense Force's Tokoa base, Mina's staring at the aftermath of the chaos. Soshiro walks in, all serious, saying it has been 5 days since Kafka's situation hit the fan, and the top brass still has no idea what to do with him. Dude is still locked up. They look over the broken buildings and agree. It will be a while before this place looks less like an apocalypse zone. Mina remembers how Kafka saved everyone, even though the shockwaves nearly wrecked the city doing it. Then she switches gears. Isn't today the day the rookies meet their new units? Soshiro nods. They are probably on the way right now. Cut to Reno and Iharu in a car, driving to their new division. Reno's in emo mode, so Iharu, being the genius he is, pulls over and fakes excitement about taking selfies with Matsumoto Castle. He begs Reno for a photo shoot. Later, they chill on a bench. Iharu tells him not to stress. It is just day 1. Reno plays it cool, but Iharu can see through it. Then he checks his phone and sees Kafka's profile, message still unread. That makes him wonder, what is going to happen to the guy? Someone like Kafka can't exactly go back to desk duty after turning into a walking nuclear warhead. Soon they reach their destination, the Defense Force's 4th Division. Reno silently vows to grow stronger, so he never has to rely on Kafka again. Over in the 1st Division, Kikoru is checking the group chat. All her old squad mates are flexing about their new units. She remembers Kaiju number 8 sparring with her dad and decides she has to level up fast. Just then, she is interrupted by Hasegawa, the 1st Division's vice captain. He shows up to escort her to meet the captain. On the walk over, he reminds her that this station is temporary while Tokoa base gets rebuilt. Kikoru knows this division's rep. Even back in America, people whispered their name like it was a myth. If she wants to grow stronger, this is the place. They reach the captain's door. Kikoru mentally prepares to meet the strongest person in Japan, her new mentor. The door opens and the guy is gaming. Not training, not meditating, just blasting noobs in Call of Duty. Hasegawa looks like he wants to disappear. He tells her to wait and enters the room alone. He then kicks the captain off his bed like a frustrated roommate. Turns out the captain, Narumi, did know about the meeting. He just chose not to care. Hasegawa is done with the nonsense, saying the room belongs to the Defense Force, not Narumi's personal man cave. Narumi argues about cleaning like it is a sacred art form. Eventually, Hasegawa picks him up, and that is when Narumi finally notices Kikoru outside. The vice captain introduces her. Kikoru, who was expecting a military legend, is now stuck wondering how a Call of Duty gremlin is supposed to be her inspiration. And that was her first impression of Captain Narumi. Shinomiya salutes like it's a military movie, but Narumi just brushes it off, saying, "Who cares about that formality stuff? Let me finish my sentence." Then, boom, the alarm goes off. Narumi grins and says, "Want to know what that thing is? Well, just watch us take down some kaiju." He's all hyped because, this is going to be like a front row seat to a live-action movie. Flashback 15 minutes earlier. Some kaiju is chilling in the ocean like it's a beach day, and eyewitnesses are straight up hitting the panic button. A helicopter's already on its way to check things out. Fast forward 10 minutes, the defense chief approves a plan, and boom, Captain Narumi and Shinomiya are flying out of Ariake Maritime Base, while the rest of the crew rolls out in armored trucks like it's a Call of Duty mission. The military's prepping tanks, emergency alerts are popping up everywhere, and civilians are told to evacuate. Meanwhile, the authorities think shutting down the Kanagawa Bay Bridge will stop the kaiju. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. The kaiju straight up charges the bridge, destroys it, and drowns everyone on it. Narumi gets all serious and says it's time to take over. Before jumping in, he turns to Shinomiya and casually drops this bomb. I don't care about manners, being polite, or working hard. The only thing I care about is you showing me some serious firepower. Then, he transforms his umbrella into a spinning chainsaw and cuts through the kaiju like it's made of butter. The kaiju screams like a horror movie, and the whole place gets showered in guts. Narumi goes full savage, saying, I don't want your politeness. I want you to be unstoppable. Shinomiya's eyes light up, impressed that he's the real deal. A bit later, Narumi's back at the 1st Division office, and he's throwing a tantrum because all the newspapers are talking about Mina, not him. Shinomiya's like, dude, you're the strongest guy in Japan and you're Googling yourself? But then she notices his phone's buzzing nonstop. Narumi's like, probably Mina's dad or some other meeting nonsense. I couldn't care less. Then, Heskawa kicks the door down like it's a WWE match and drags Narumi out for another meeting. Narumi's like, what's the deal? Heskawa's like, it's about Kaiju number 8. And bam, Shinomiya's ears perk up. Cut to Kafka. He's locked up in his cell, pacing back and forth. He's been here for 5 days and still hasn't figured out what to do. He recalls the director's words about proving his worth. 2 soldiers march in and drag him to the director's office. He sees Narumi, and he's like, wait, what's this guy doing here? Then the director drops the news. Kafka's getting transferred to the 1st Division. Surprise! They want the strongest kaiju to work with the strongest kaiju fighting team. The director's like, prove you're worth it, or get lost. Kafka's not thrilled to be treated like a kaiju, but he agrees because, well, he wants to survive. But then Narumi, being a buzzkill, says they only need him to beat the kaiju. The director's like, not so fast. Kaiju number 9 can shapeshift, and Kaiju number 10 attacked one of our bases. These aren't your regular kaiju, and we can't assume we're invincible. Narumi's like, okay, so you want a super weapon out of Kaiju number 8? Kafka's like, what? But he knows he has no choice. He can't die just yet. He's got a promise to keep, to fight beside Mina. With confidence, Kafka introduces himself, but Narumi just walks off saying, I don't care about your feelings. What matters is results and power. If you lose control again, I'll kill you on the spot and turn you into a suit. Kafka just sighs and thanks him. Meanwhile, Soshiro's telling Mina that all the rookies have joined their unit, and she's like, let's get to work. We're not here to mess around. Back at the director's secret underground lab, he's walking through with scientists scrambling around. As they go deeper, the director spots a mysterious person in a glass chamber. In episode 2, a massive earthquake hits. Buildings start falling like a bad Jenga tower, and out of nowhere, bam! A giant crater cracks open in the middle of the city. People rush over like they are about to film the next viral video, only to start screaming when a bunch of creepy eyeballs pop up from the hole. Seconds later, a swarm of giant bugs comes crawling out like it is the apocalypse. The city, completely overrun. But before all that chaos, our boy Kafka has been grinding like his life depends on it. He gives it his all during every single training session. Even when the sun goes down, while the others are cooling off, he is still out there sweating like it is finals week at Kaiju U. And wait a second, is it just me? Or does that one dude look exactly like a younger Kafka? Meanwhile, Kikoru shows up ready for her own special training. She opens the door, expecting a serious lesson, and finds her superior bowing down, begging her for money. She is just standing there like, is this dude for real? He tells her that his entire bank account mysteriously vanished. Spoiler, it is because he blew it all on Yama-on merch. She scolds him like a mom catching her kid buying Fortnite skins without permission. Before the drama gets any worse, alarms start blaring. Mr. Baldi runs off to suit up. Elsewhere, Jen goes full switch mode, now acting serious as he tells the team they are going to crush some kaiju because those bugs just ruined a major negotiation. RIP business meeting. Cut to Shinagawa, where the giant ants are treating the city like a buffet. The city is complete chaos. 2 little siblings are hiding, shaking in fear. Big Bro tells his sister it will be okay. Then, boom, giant ant appears. The kid stands in front like, not today, praying Narumi comes to save them. And guess what? Narumi pulls up like a superhero. The kid cheers, calling him by name, but Narumi scolds him like a disappointed dad. That's Captain Narumi to you. Now go home and post online 10 times that I'm awesome. Back in the field, Miku and Kanashi finish mopping up their area. Narumi tells everyone that civilian safety comes first. He then turns to Kikoru and Kafka. Yeah, he literally calls him Kaiju number 8 like it is his gamer tag, and orders them to move out and wipe out the enemies in their zone. Meanwhile, the lab nerds are tracking Kafka's vitals like he is a walking science experiment. At the same time, they are monitoring the shelters to make sure everyone is safe. Everyone's stressed out, but Isao shows up and tells them to relax. Their only job is to wipe out Kaiju. No pressure. The soldiers work together like pros, guiding the Kaiju into the designated extermination zone. That's where Kikoru is waiting, wielding a battle axe that looks like it was stolen from a fantasy game. Without wasting a second, she charges in and shreds the giant ants, leaving everyone shook. Still, Kikoru is not satisfied. She wants to be stronger. She thinks her attack power is still way below Ashiro's and that she is nowhere near Hoshina's speed. She plows through Kaiju after Kaiju like a one-woman army, which annoys Captain Shinonome. Shinonome tries to act all calm but is clearly ticked off and jumps back into the fight like, "I'm not letting this kid steal my thunder." Everyone else is like, "Bet," and also jumps into action, showing off like it is a competition. Meanwhile, Hasegawa tells Narumi that Kikoru might actually be stronger than he was as a rookie. Narumi snaps back, "Yeah, right, I was way cooler than that." So there's this crazy situation where everyone's freaking out because these giant ants, which are usually deep underground like they're hiding from their ex, suddenly pop up to wreak havoc. And guess what? They're not acting normal, which gives off a major something's fishy vibe, reminding our guys of that time the Kaiju Winnabers attacked the defense base in Tachikawa. Turns out, these ants might be getting some orders from someone. So Kafka's over here, trying to pull off his Kaiju killer act, but he's totally nervous because he knows he's being watched and the pressure's on. If he messes up, it's game over. He tries to use his Kaiju powers, but it's like trying to fight a bear with a spoon. The ants just aren't phased. Kafka is scared to go full Kaiju because last time he did, he gave Isao a whooping. But he knows he can't hesitate, or he's toast. He's about to transform, but surprise! His transformation fails in the most anticlimactic way ever, leaving Kafka as confused as a dog at a tennis match. The scientists are freaking out, yelling that Kaiju number 8 is failing to transform. Kafka's all like, "Why can't I do it?" Before suddenly, BAM! A massive new Kaiju signal pops up right where Kafka is standing. And who shows up? Kaiju number 9, looking like a whole new level of ugly. Number 9's all like, "Yo, are you Kaiju number 8? Kafka's confused as heck, thinking this beast can literally smell kaijus or something. Before he can process what's happening, number 9 attacks, and Kafka's like, "Well, that's rude." He tries to transform again, but nope, fail. The scientists are basically sending out panic signals because Kafka is about to lose control, and they don't want that liability on their hands. Narumi's all chill and says, "I'll go handle this number 9 thing." But as he approaches, surprise again! Number 9 splits like it's some sort of evil magic trick. Narumi's like, "Wait, were there always 2 of these bad boys, or did I miss the memo?" Then, out of nowhere, all the Kaiju that were taken down earlier? Yeah, they're back, stronger than ever. It's like a bad sequel no one asked for. The soldiers are freaking out because the situation is rapidly turning into a monster-sized dumpster fire. Narumi sees how much power number 9's packing and knows this fight is going to be a real pain. The soldiers, seeing Kafka getting wrecked, try to step in, but they're nothing compared to number 9. Who casually swats them away like flies. Kafka's struggling, still trying to transform, but his body's just not having it. Meanwhile, in the command center, Isao's watching and the general's like, "Maybe don't move right now, yeah? Don't want you getting any funny ideas in case number 8 loses control." Isao's like, "I get it, but something feels off about this whole situation." Back in the battlefield, number 9's about to send Kafka to the big Kaiju graveyard in the sky when, boom! Kikoru shows up just in time and slices number 9 right in half. But guess what? Number 9 regenerates like it's no big deal. Kikoru's like, "Don't worry, I got this one," ready to finish the job. But then, number 9's clone pops up and tells Narumi, "I'm gonna finish you off real quick and then go deal with number 8. Narumi just looks at him. "Bro, I'm the captain. You're just a soldier. Know your place." But of course, number 9 can't just chill and attacks Narumi, who gets super mad. He goes full beast mode and starts wrecking the place, showing off just how much power he's packing. Meanwhile, Isao's watching all this go down and thinking, yup, this is exactly the kind of test the new generation needs. Kaiju number 9 was already recovering from Shinomiya's attack, and she was going to have to handle it alone since Kafka couldn't transform. They dodge a barrage of attacks, and she says she'll hit the target hard so it doesn't move. If number 9 is interfering with Kafka's transformation, there must be a gap, and even though she doesn't want to admit it, she needs his power to win. The two charge at each other, and the Kaiju says this is unfair. So, it splits in half, each half for each of them. Shinomiya was managing to defend the shots, but Kafka took one to the hip to keep him alert. Out of nowhere, he pops up behind the blonde girl and hits her too. The mushroom head Kaiju was celebrating the victory, but she showed up again, slicing his tentacles like a hot knife through butter. While she says she doesn't want to lose anyone else, She remembers when she was a kid, watching her mother walk through the crowd. Her mother was like a Valkyrie on the battlefield, wielding Kaiju number 4's weapon. At school, everyone was amazed that Kikoru's mom was the strongest person in the world. And when she came back tired from work, the little girl would jump on her like crazy. She told her that everyone was watching TV at school, saying her mom was the best. She asked if her mom had gotten hurt, but it was just a scratch from today's Kaiju. Shinomiya says she's going to join the defense force to help her mom. Her mother told her to always count on her when in trouble. They did everything together, a happy family. Until one day, a mass attack occurred due to Kaiju number 6. That's when Captain Hikari Shinomiya of the 2nd Division sacrificed herself to save the whole country from this tragedy. At the funeral, Kikoru cried her heart out, calling herself a liar. She had promised to help her mom, but she did nothing. But when she looked at her dad, all she saw was pure hate on his face. After that, she decided to become stronger to take her mother's place. Back in the present, she was tearing off number 9's arm. But out of nowhere, the ant's head grew and she lost her support. Kafka came in with a flying kick to the monster, but it dropped like a sack of potatoes because his leg was nothing but a peeled orange. Suddenly, Kikoru came flying in, using her number 6 axe technique to chop the Kaiju into pieces. She shouted at Kafka to try again, and he started transforming, saying he would end this once and for all. But just as he was almost there, he remembered the Kaiju that entered his body, imagining himself smashing Kikoru into the wall and wiping out her entire squad too. So, fearing he might lose control, he couldn't transform again. The one-eyed guy and the bald dude weren't happy at all. But Narumi says he's heading there because he can't leave this to a newbie. He just had to deal with number 9, which was with him first. He used 100% combat power to finish off that big head monster. He fired like a madman and sliced the ant's leg with a burning blade so it couldn't regenerate. The Kaiju tried to retreat, but Narumi filled it with bullets from his sword that shoots. They started exchanging shots like an old Western standoff, but the mushroom head Kaiju was so smart that after the first hit, it learned how it worked. It could even dodge with its eyes closed, and it threw a bomb at Narumi's head, which he barely avoided. But it didn't matter because 1 second later, there were 30 more bombs all over his body. The brass noticed that number 9 was leveling up mid-fight, totally different from what the 3rd Division reported. This was the first time anyone had seen a Kaiju evolve in the middle of a battle, but Narumi yelled for them to chill out, because he is a bigger threat than this off-brand Kaiju. Number 9 was confused how Narumi came out without a scratch, and the man said now that his suit was warmed up, it was hunting time. Big Head asked why his eyes looked like a Kaiju's, but he did not even finish the sentence before Narumi turned into Ace from One Piece and blew a hole through his gut. That is because Gen Narumi was using his other numbered weapon, Retina 01, the oldest numbered weapon in Japan, made from Kaiju number 1's eyeball. Now Narumi was so busted that number 9 could not even dodge his attacks, even after analyzing them, because Kaiju number 1 had the power to see into the future. It could read brain signals and predict where a person would move before they moved. That is why dodging this Kaiju's attacks was basically impossible. From above, Narumi scanned the whole body and found number 9's core, but the Kaiju could not adapt in time and got his core smashed to pieces. The researchers already started celebrating, and the boss said now it was Kafka's turn. But the other number 9 regenerated instantly, shattered Shinomiya's axe, and turned Kafka into a human colander. Our boy painted the floor red, leaking strawberry juice from every hole, saying he could not transform because he was scared of losing control and wiping out his friends. But Kikoru overheard and told him not to underestimate her, or Captain Ashiro, or Vice Captain Hoshina, or the new recruits, or even himself, because they are the defense force and they can handle it. Then Kafka apologized and said she was right. Kikoru is so tough that even if he lost control, she would tank it anyway. No problem. So he gave it another go, and this time he finally transformed. And Shinomiya said, "Better late than never." Meanwhile, the rest of the defense force was getting whooped trying to take down Kaijus that just kept regenerating. But they got the message. Kafka had transformed, and now the tables were turning. Mushroomhead said he knew he was Kaiju number 8. Then he gave a command and made all the dead Yojus rise from the grave like zombie bug. Kafka thanked Kikoru because he still did not believe in himself, but he believed in her 100%. So he told her to handle the swarm while he goes toe-to-toe with that Funko Pop-headed freak. The blonde said he had some nerve leaving the weak ones for her, and if he dies, she will bring him back just to kill him again. Kafka charged in, but number 9 said he learned a lot from their last fight. He trapped Kafka's foot and pulled out 2 monster-sized bazookas to blow him sky high. But Kafka did not even flinch. He blasted forward like a freight train, made a crater, and ripped out the ant's core. He exploded the core, saying number 9's must be hiding down there too. He dodged a rain of bullets with his super speed, saying he had barely scratched the surface of his power. jumped off a building saying he had way better control of his body now. He got caught in a trap, but broke out before the trigger was even pulled, then dropped from the sky like a meteor to smash that alien wannabe for good. Number 9 asked if something felt different about him, but he got turned into pudding before he got an answer. The scientists were stunned by Kaiju number 8's real power, and now they finally believed it was worth bringing Old Man Kafka onto the squad. The researchers were celebrating like they just won the lottery, but those Yojus that came back to life started disappearing again. But Kikoru interrupts the party, saying it's not over yet. The director says that the new generation keeps surprising him. The bald guy was stunned that they managed to take down 2 numbered kaijus with barely any damage. He says, without a doubt, this is the invincible division. And now, the Shinagawa extermination operation was finished. Kafka deactivates his transformation and celebrates with Kikoru, happy everything went smoothly. Then the director says they did a good job. Kikoru thought it was about to rain since she hadn't heard a compliment from her dad in years. He tells them to keep the area under control until they're sure it's all safe. But Narumi felt something was off, because while he understood the Mushroom Head's claim to kill Kaiju number 8, he also said he was going to steal his power, and he started wondering if the guy had some other plan in mind. Suddenly, the siren blares, announcing the appearance of a new Kaiju. And out of nowhere, Kaiju number 9 rises from the dead, saying he's right on time. Sadly, he didn't manage to kill Kafka, but now he'll go after his real goal, which was to steal Kafka's massive Kaiju power. Then, suddenly, the guy melts and leaves Kafka confused. But Kafka realizes and tells Captain Narumi that wasn't the real body, because the real one was over in the control room, saying he'd finally found the human with the Kaiju number 2 weapon. Both monsters rush over, saying it was all a distraction. What they really wanted was Director Shinomiya, and Kikoru runs back in a panic. The director orders everyone to evacuate, and the whole squad makes a run for it. But the Kaiju sends a little snap and blows the whole place to pieces. Isao says they can't let this monster take Kaiju number 2's power. He orders his subordinates to handle everything there. The guy with the slap says he'll fight too, but Bald Guy stops him, saying they'll just get in the way. The director starts activating his weapon, and Kaiju number 9 says he can't believe Beta and Gamma were defeated so quickly, since they should have been as strong as him. The director says the Mushroom Head evolved faster than he expected. They clashed their punches, sending a blast of wind everywhere. They didn't even send everything flying because it was already all blown up. Bald Guy says, according to the 3rd Division report, his strength level is 8.5. So Isao should be able to win easily. He just didn't expect the Kaiju to have evolved so much, and it smashed the director to the ground like a pancake. The Kaiju was about to finish him off with a punch to the stomach, but the director barely manages to get up, saying he's gonna wipe that bastard out now. Narumi is on his way as fast as he can. The researcher says the area's been evacuated, and now the boss can leave too. But it's no use trying to run because the Kaiju can track their location, so they had to deal with it here and now. The nerd starts remembering all the moments he admired and learned from the director, and he says he'll stay by his side until the end to help him win. Then Iso unleashes his full power, and his fanboy says this will shave off years of his life, but he'll need superhuman strength to take on that freak. And this was Kaiju number 2 at full strength. But even that wasn't enough, and the Kaiju starts taunting, saying that this power was meant to be his. The director hits an ascending destruction punch right in the stomach and in his face, decapitating the Kaiju. But the Kaiju keeps talking, even without a head, saying that was impressive. He sends a series of punches and Isao tries to block them all, but he gets knocked out with a solid punch and sent flying into a building. The director starts whining, saying he got way weaker after his wife died. Then he takes another punch that knocks off 5% of his power. He drops to the ground like a pigeon dropping, and the researcher could not do a thing to help. At this rate, they were not going to last until Captain Narumi showed up. But Isao says over the comms that they will take him down. If they retreat even for 1 second, they are done. So he orders them to use every remaining circuit to attack. Kurusu yells that if he does that, he will never be able to fight again. But the director says it does not matter, because the new generation has grown enough to take his place. And he needs to take down number 9, even if it costs his life, just like his wife did with number 6 that day. But as he is powering up, the Kaiju walks in and buries him with a brutal punch that shakes everything. Then we get a flashback to when Kikoru's parents were shocked that she wanted to join the defense force. but it made sense. She was the daughter of two kaiju-slaying monsters, and since she was stepping into such a dangerous job, her mother would have to be extremely strict with her training. She left the job of spoiling her to Isao. Back in the present, the director takes the punch but starts pushing back, saying he was never the father he should have been, and insane levels of magnetic energy start pouring from his body. He is preparing one final strike to erase this nightmare once and for all, so it will never exist in his daughter's future, and he blasts a massive hole in that wretched monster's stomach. The problem is, he is using the same explosive strike from Kaiju number 2 that once wiped out an entire city, so there is no way Iso would survive firing that kind of energy from a human body. Number 9's core is exposed, but he says he came well prepared to survive. He starts reshaping his whole body into a defensive form, but even he did not expect Isao to fire a second blast. It launches him so far that he slices through a building in the blink of an eye. Kafka and Narumi are sprinting to the scene. Kurusu thought the director was already a pancake, but he was still standing. Number 9 says that even his reinforced body could not survive that, but sadly, this is the limit of humanity. If the director had a kaiju body, he might have lived through it. The man is only thinking about firing one more blast. The kaiju consumes his body, saying it is time for number 2 to be reborn. When Narumi arrives, he is relieved to see Isao standing, but Kafka yells for him to wait because that is not the director, and they almost took a domain expansion right to the face. Number 9's power was so high it did not even feel like the same guy as before. Now he had a fresh haircut and a tiny little head. Narumi asks where Isao is, but Number 9 says he killed him and fused their bodies. But Kikoru comes flying in, asking who would believe such a lie. She fires 3 rounds that do not even tickle him, and the kaiju asks if she is his daughter. He starts morphing his face, and Kafka yells for her not to look. Narumi jumps in, slicing his legs, telling him not to mess with his subordinate. But the attack does nothing because Narumi had already used that move on Beta, and Number 9 learned how to counter it. He remembers the director saying he would leave the battlefield once the invincible unit was complete, and he entrusted the defense force to Narumi's hands. So Narumi swears he will take this creep down to avenge the director. But Number 9 cuts him off, saying he is done for today. After all, his body rejects the fusion after a while, and he needs to rest. Of course, Narumi is not about to let him walk away, but the monster says Narumi's power only works against a small number of targets, and it is nowhere near enough to scratch his defense. Then Kafka jumps in with a left jab, telling him to give the director back. But the kaiju says that last time Kafka was defenseless, and now he already knows how to deal with Number 8. Kafka takes a hit and says, it's just him and Narumi against this freak. He tried to trade blows but nearly lost an arm and got thrown across the place. Number 9 was about to make a run for it, but out of nowhere, his arm just fell off like a rotten sandwich, and Narumi, not messing around, went full throttle on it, unleashing a strike so strong it stopped the kaiju from hardening his body. Meanwhile, Kafka fires a powerhouse right hook, slicing off half of Number 9's hip. He swears he won't let him escape because this is way too unfair to Kikoru. He follows up with a turbo punch, launching the bastard sky high. Six Eyes says they'll have to leave Number 8 for last, but then he takes another hit that chops off both his arm. The two exterminators team up for a combo attack, but Number 9 laughs, saying they can't touch him. He unleashes his full body, releasing monstrous energy that obliterates half the city. That push pushes him to his limit, and the lower half of his body detaches. Incredibly, Kafka and Narumi survive and are ready to strike back. Number 9 grins and says he should have done this from the start. He splits in two and fires 2 massive energy blasts at the fallen scientist. Says humans are weird because they can't abandon the people in front of them. Kafka jumps to shield the blonde, and Narumi defends the big guy. Meanwhile, Number 9, wearing Iso's face, warns that next time they meet, the kaiju era will begin, and he flies off with only half his body intact. They can't believe they let that worm slip away. Kafka yells at him not to dare say that to director Shinomiya's face. He exits his transformation, screaming in frustration. Back in the city, newspapers report director Shinomiya's death. All the battalions show up for the funeral and fire shots in honor of the incredible director Isao. Narumi remembers the day he watched him obliterate a sinister kaiju with a single punch. Now he's the one leading the defense force. But Kikoru doesn't show up at her father's funeral. She's crying at his desk, blaming herself for being too slow and weak. She says it's her fault the kaiju escaped and vows to become stronger. She knows her father is still trapped inside that monster, and she can't say goodbye until they wipe that cursed kaiju off the face of the earth. She apologizes and says she'll accept any punishment for skipping the funeral, but Narumi promises he'll make her stronger than anyone by the next fight. Except him. He'll teach her everything Isao passed on to him. She cries tears of gratitude while Kafka listens from behind the door, clutching a wounded hand and swearing he'll end Number 9's trashy existence. After that, Keiji Itami heads to the lab. Nerdy Kurusu says the director ordered them to continue the project in secret. He tells Itami to handle the rest, and the bald guy laughs, saying Aisu always leaves the dirty work to him. Meanwhile, in the training room, Kikaru is sparring with Shinonome. But Shinonome controls the distance perfectly and easily beats Kikaru. Narumi complains this is boring and asks when she'll reach the level to face him one-on-one. He says it'll take 1 month to finish that game, so she has until then to defeat all the squad leaders. If she's not genius level by then, it won't be enough. He shouts to start the games, but Hasegawa kicks him in the butt, telling him to get to work. Shinomiya wants revenge, and Shinonome is hyped about this promising rookie. Hasegawa asks if Narumi has decided whether they're going to accept Number 8 into the defense force. Before they can answer, a message pops up from some guy saying he's got a report on Number 8. Kafka rolls up at home, saying it's been ages since he's been there. The scientist explains that Number 8's transformation is progressing. Some parts of his body aren't returning to normal, and they can't say for sure. But if it keeps going, he might never be fully human again. He says Kafka already knows he's being watched at home and may never have a normal life. The protagonist opens the door and the guards are stunned, but he says he wants to stop by one more place. He rides in on a motorcycle with the guards chasing behind, making a face at a kid who nearly dies laughing. The cleanup squad is struggling because the Kaiju's shell is way too tough and almost shatters the blade. One of them says he feels like an ant surrounded by so many giant corpses. Out of nowhere, Kafka shows up saying it's been a long time since they last met. He says he came back to return some stuff he had. He gets pumped seeing a new chainsaw model and jumps straight into testing. A rookie complains it's tricky cutting near the veins, but Kafka does it with his eyes closed. Takuda mentions he worked there for 10 years. Miki complains that after Kafka left, they stuck him in the intestines. Kafka asks if they've noticed how much he carried the team on his back. The chubby guy tells him to stop being a defense force doormat and go back to being the cleaning star, but he gets hit with a jet of water to keep him in line. The guards have no clue what Number 8 is even doing. Later, he says goodbye, and Meek asks what happens now that Grady Sao is gone. He says it's best to leave the city, but Tokuda shouts he's going nowhere, because if they run, who's gonna clean up when the defense force tears Number 9 into pieces? Then the chubby guy says sometimes Tokuda isn't so bad, even if he's a drunk addict who owes him 50,000 yen. But he knows the defense force, and Kafka won't go easy on that cursed kaiju. While the protagonist thinks he won't let his friends get hurt again, Captain Narumi shows up, cutting straight to the point. He says Number 8 can't stay in the defense force. Kafka knows that if he keeps transforming, he might never go back to being human. Even so, Narumi asks Kafka to help them. He doesn't care if the kid becomes a kaiju forever, because if that happens, all he has to do is kill him. The only thing that matters is taking down Number 9. He says they were the only ones there when it happened, so they know what went down, and he knows Kafka won't even think about saying no. Kafka says that after everything director Shinomiya did for him, he's ready for anything. Narumi declares that from now on, it's their turn. The defense force's turn to strike back. Meanwhile, Hoshina goes to the lab and asks if Kaiju Number 10 got a good sleep, because it's time for him to become a weapon. The researchers were shook. Kaiju Number 10 still had insane energy, even in that state. He lets out a spine-chilling roar, but Hoshina tells him to shut it if he doesn't want to get fried. And the Kaiju's like, I knew that Katana guy was different from the others. You wanted to beat him and snack on him afterward. Bullhair chimes in, saying there's a Kaiju they call Number 9, and asks if Number 10 knows anything about him. Number 10 goes, of course I do. After all, it was Number 9 who made me. Everyone's jaw hits the floor. No one ever heard of a Kaiju that creates other Kaijus. Number 10 says he'll spill the tea about Number 9, but he's got a condition. He wants to be taken out there and fought again. Hoshina says he can't. His core is too damaged for combat, but that's not what Number 10 means. He's talking about turning his body into a weapon using their tech. He wants to become a weapon. Nobody had ever heard of a kaiju volunteering to be turned into a weapon before. Konomi freaks out, warning it's dangerous. There's zero precedent for turning a sentient kaiju into a weapon, and they have no clue what it might do to the user. The kaiju's just chilling, saying their fight was so fun it felt like a dream. Hoshina tells him to zip it because he did not have fun at all. The monster calls him a liar. He saw that the katana guy was totally enjoying the fight. "They're the same," he says, "just chasing that thrill, whether fighting kaijus or human." The boy says he needs a minute to think. When he left the room, he completely lost his tough guy posture and looked like a total wimp, saying he was scared out of his mind. He looks like a scared little wimp, admitting he's terrified. He says he does not want to equip this thing, and Konami agrees. There's no way to predict what the kaiju might do, and he could take over the kid's body for real. But 5 seconds later, Hoshina flips the script, saying the raw power is too tempting, and they have no other intel. He tells the captain he's going to accept the kaiju's offer. Konami starts the request to turn number 10 into a weapon. Then Hoshina goes back inside, confirming he's in, but makes it crystal clear he is using number 10, not the other way around. Meanwhile, on the soldier training grounds, Shinomiya asks if Vice Captain Hoshina is coming. Hasegawa says it's for a meeting about what to do with number 9. Kafka says he still hasn't apologized to Hoshina for hiding who he really was. Hikaru says Narumi took the squad leaders somewhere. Baldy warns this is a problem. The 1st and 3rd divisions share jurisdiction over Tokyo. They're always fighting over territory, and they don't get along at all. Narumi asks who gave Hoshina the right to step on his turf, and the vice captain joking that he did not need to come in person to meet you. He had permission from someone way more important than Narumi, but Narumi blocks him anyway. No bull-haired, squinty-eyed people allowed. Hoshina fits both categories. Then the Japanese guy casually asks if he's still salty over losing the small kaiju extermination contest. That's almost a fatality for Narumi. He nearly passes out. Everyone starts arguing, accusing the other division of stealing kaijus they were supposed to exterminate. Narumi yells that, aside from the small kaiju contest, he outperformed everyone else. Hoshina drops the bomb that Captain Ashiro was the best at long-range shooting, and Narumi is totally defeated, talking trash about Hoshina and telling him to get lost. But Hasegawa swings a bat at his head, and everyone's like, "All hail the vice captain." He escorts Soshiro to the leaders' conference. The room is massive, packed with all the division heads, and now they're about to discuss how to upgrade defenses against Kaiju number 9. Igarashi cuts in, warning Narumi not to sit there yawning like an airhead during the meeting or she'll smack him awake. He calls her Musclehead and says he'll yawn whenever he wants, but Mina tells him to ignore him. He's only good for killing kaijus anyway. He gets salty, saying Mina was way worse than Igarashi. Captain Ogata tells everyone to chill, but they're screaming that he's drinking sake in the middle of the meeting. Itami shuts them up, and the meeting finally starts. Hoshina says they have new intel on Kaiju number 9. In short, one division alone cannot handle him. Narumi asks where this info comes from, and Hoshina says it's from number 10, currently in custody. Number 10 says number 9 created him. Everyone's jaw drops. No one ever thought a kaiju could spawn a monster with a 9.0 strength level. To make things worse, number 10 says he's just a prototype, and he wants to face the finished versions that came after him. People can't wrap their heads around a kaiju strong enough to beat a 9.0 being just a prototype. Hoshina says Japan's defense force can handle up to 5 powerful kaijus at once. But if any of them are above 9.0, that number drops even more. And if number 9 can create kaijus even stronger than that, if they do not work together, Japan is toast. Everyone freaks out. Ogata asks if number 10 could be lying. Bullhair says there's always a chance. But according to the data, the average annual strength level jumped from 2.6 to 4.8. He says Kaiju number 9 shifts forms and moves his bases around. They don't know his current location, but since he needs tons of energy to spawn multiple Daikaijus, he's probably hiding somewhere between the Philippines and Eurasia, a place humans cannot reach. It would take years to track him like that. Mina adds that number 10 also said number 9 can access memories of the humans he absorbs. So after absorbing Director Shinomiya, he might know all of Japan's defense secret. The next few months are going to be a race to come up with as many surprises as possible, things that the current forces cannot predict, mainly untested, incomplete humans with fast growth potential. The growth of the next generation will be key to winning this battle. Mina says the most important thing is to train someone who can wield the most powerful weapon from number 6, still dormant, the deadliest weapon no one has ever mastered. They're about to pit the former Kaiju king against the current monarch. Igarashi asks if they found anyone capable, and Mina mentions a new recruit showing signs of sinking with number 6. He's not from any extermination university like Harvard, and his grades are mediocre. The other divisions didn't even know he existed. His name is Rino Ichikawa, one of the fast-maturing new talents. Captain Ogata starts drinking just to process all this info, but his secretary snatches the glass, saying no drinking on the job. He explains that Kaiju number 6 didn't just have a 9.6 strength level, he showed up with a bunch of Hanjus too, truly worthy of the title King of Kaijus. Captain Shinomiya led a multi-division team to take him down in Odawara. Many sacrifices were made, but in the end, the extermination succeeded. And now, they're about to force a teenager to wield this monster. But even after that epic pep talk, the girl still would not let him drink. After that, Ichikawa steps up. He was shook when he found out he was about to get the number 6 weapon. He said he had heard about Kaiju weapons but never seen one up close. The captain says that in the hands of someone skilled, these weapons are strong enough to drop a Daikaiju instantly. But because of the insane weight and the fact you have to be on the front lines all the time, half the users kick the bucket before retirement. And number 6? Yeah, that one is the deadliest of all. The captain says he probably should not say this as a member of Japan's defense force, but honestly, Ichikawa should probably say no. While running a marathon, the kid remembered that Kafka decided to fight in the defense force as Kaiju number 8. But if this keeps up, nobody will be around to save him. So he accepts the offer. He tells them to start, and Ogata says he likes the look in his eyes. They activate number 6, and Ichikawa is only going to feel the strain in his arms this time, but it felt like it was sucking all the strength right out of him. Halfway through, the captain tells Toko to get a stretcher ready for the kid. He looked like Frankenstein taking a live shock, like his brain was about to fry any second. And when he came face to face with Kaiju number 6, he straight up passes out. He realized this is what Kafka goes through every single time. After a long while, he wakes up in the hospital with Iharu calling him. Iharu says, "Looks like you did not manage to sync with number 6. And Captain Ogata is there in the corner, asking if now he finally sees how terrifying it is to wield a numbered Kaiju weapon. Because if just equipping it on his arms did this much damage, imagine what would happen if he tried to equip it fully. He repeats that Ichikawa should probably refuse. Iharu agrees, but Ichikawa says once again that he is going to accept. No hesitation, not even a second. And if he goes to the front lines with number 6 like this, he will probably bite it fast. The captain says he has 1 month of training. He will send him on an extermination mission and see firsthand if he is worthy of wielding number 6 in battle. We flash back to the extermination tech school. Nobody could touch Iharu because he always scored the highest. His brain soaked up everything they taught, and his body just kept getting stronger. He dreamed of becoming as powerful as Captain Mina, Director Shinomiya, and Narumi. Then he saw Ichikawa fail to wield the Kaiju number 6 weapon, and everyone said he was doomed to fail. In the present, they were fighting a ton of Kaijus that had escaped from Jurassic Park. They even brought in tanks to handle the beasts, and Ichikawa was gearing up to use the full Kaiju number 6 suit for the first time. The suit was so sick that just being near it made Iharu feel frozen. Captain Ogata says he never expected Reno to boost his stats to combat level in just 1 month. He admits he wanted to force the kid into an impossible task to make him quit. Toko says that in any normal company that would be abuse. She mentions Ichikawa's combat power is still way below Kikaru's, but it's rising faster than hers. Soon, Reno might even surpass her. The captain tells him to team up with a squad to take down Hanju. It's a mold-type Kaiju. Its power level is 6.4, so if he feels he cannot handle it, the captain himself will step in to exterminate it. Now they are testing if the kid is worthy of wielding such a weapon. They jump off a cliff, and Iharu is blown away by Ichikawa's speed. He uses full release to keep up. Since Kaiju weapons lower the user's lifespan, the captain says Reno can only wear the suit for 10 minutes. That's why he was in such a hurry to get results. He spots a Yoju and charges, but he can't control the ice and nearly becomes Monster Chow. Iharu and the others show up, unloading bullets into the beast. Reno regains his composure and fires an ice shot that destabilizes the Kaiju, saying, just like in training, he uses the ice to lock onto a tree and fires a shot straight into the core, blowing the Kaiju to pieces. Iharu is shocked by that power, but almost gets ambushed by another Kaiju. He wonders why he cannot take down a Yanju with a single strike, too. He admits that ever since joining the defense force, things started going wrong. His strength declined, and he got left behind. He fought so hard but could not catch up, and while spacing out, he got hit by a tail smack in the mouth to snap him awake. The director tells him to respect his limits and know when to retreat. The Kaiju charges like a bull, but Ichikawa appears, thanking it for helping him calm down. He fires a shot that freezes the Kaiju and shatters it into tiny pieces. But the main event is still ahead. Ichikawa goes full power to face Hanju. Combat power at 45%. Godzilla gives a swipe that flings a tree almost into the operators. Down below, Ichikawa starts freezing the Kaiju like Aokiji. The scientists are amazed, but Reno notes the skin is insanely tough and regenerates faster than the Yoju. He needs more power because this way he cannot reach the core. He cranks his combat power to 46%, mid-battle, but the captain is not happy. Reno rips a hole in the Kaiju's shoulder but needs more juice. He cranks it even further to 51%. Hanju changes form and grows spikes along its back. His eyes turn red like a fire truck on steroids, and he gets insanely fast. He climbs up Hanju and fires shot after shot, freezing and blasting the enemy's core organ. But his blood pressure is skyrocketing. He has muscle tears in 6 different places. His body just cannot handle all these moves. Everyone thought number 6 was making him lose control, but the captain says this is just Ichikawa being his true self, and this could end up destroying him. The operators are confused because this did not happen during training, but a real fight is way more stressful and terrifying, especially with the number 6 weapon, which is built from the strongest kaiju in history. The captain warns Ichikawa that if he cannot control himself, he will not be allowed to keep using it. Iharu says that when Reno failed to use the number 6 weapon, he actually felt relieved, but then he started cursing himself, calling himself trash. Ichikawa cannot control his thoughts and only thinks about gaining more power. He freezes everything in a 50-meter radius, but now the soldiers cannot help. 35% of Hanju's body is frozen, and it is being attacked faster than it can regenerate. Meanwhile, Ichikawa already has 16 muscle tears and 4 broken bones. He is even bleeding from his eyes, screaming that he cannot go on. A fracture in his left tibia leaves his leg crooked to the side. Captain Ogata says his chance is over. He was going to step into the operation and sends Toko to help Ichikawa. The kid is consumed by his thoughts, shouting that he is too weak. But Iharu bursts through, destroying everything and yelling his name. He asks Captain Ogata to give Reno and Ichikawa a little more time. Ogata tells him to get out because the area is too dangerous. But the kid keeps going, and the captain is shocked because this goes way beyond the 24% combat power recorded for Iharu. The kid says Reno is so amazing, it makes him jealous. But he is sure his friend will succeed. He smashes through a wall of ice with his bare hands and rushes to help Ichikawa, who is unconscious. After a few minutes, the kid finally wakes up, and Iharu explains that the seniors are distracting Hanju, so Ichikawa can defeat the monster and officially use the number 6 suit. Iharu says he will take him to a position where he can strike, but Jack Frost warns that this will put him in danger. Iharu slams the brakes and tells him not to underestimate him. He says he is younger and needs to be trusted. Reno laughs and says the spiky-haired kid is really incredible, because whenever he is scared, Iharu makes him look forward, and he says he counts on him. Now the extermination mission is entering overtime, and they are finally going to turn that cursed Hanju into minced meat. After that, Ichikawa's brainwaves return to normal, but his body is still wrecked, and he cannot fight anymore. So the captain says they will have to leave the Kaiju's core exposed, but with a combat power of 24%, Iharu has no chance. Then the captain sees the kid in action and says there is no way that is 24% combat power. And when he asked the operators to analyze it again, his combat power was 41%, freaking everyone out. But Iharu trips on his own and drops back to 21%. He dodges a tail swipe and jumps back to 42%. Toko notices that his combat power rises when he fully focuses. The captain says that maybe he is the same type as him. When his power is high, he becomes just as strong as Ichikawa. If they teach him to control it, he will become a monster. Iharu gets tossed off Godzilla's tail but keeps fighting. He falls into the lake but quickly recovers and jumps back into combat, saying he will do whatever it takes to catch up to Ichikawa. The operator shouts that Iharu is overheating and at his limit, but the kid reaches the frozen point and exposes Hanju's core, shouting for Reno to finish that bastard. From miles away, he lands an insane shot that explodes the core and even drives a spike of ice straight into it. Captain Ogata is left jaw-dropping, remembering when he and Hikari were rookies. She rushes over to tell him she's going to take the test to use the number 4 Kaiju weapon. This way, she will get much stronger and be able to save so many people. But she asks if he thinks she is capable of handling a weapon like that, and he still regrets not telling her to refuse, because then she might still be alive and happy. Hanju collapses to the ground, losing all vital signs. The kids finally manage to defeat the monster. Everyone starts celebrating that it all worked out. Toko even freaks out seeing Captain Ogata crying, saying how good it feels to be young. After that, Ichikawa is told he passed the test. He will be entrusted with part of the work defending the country's future. Reno thanks them, but Toko still has doubts, worried that the kid might end up sacrificing himself with those reckless moves. But the captain says it is fine because Iharu already taught him that. He does not need another old man's lecture. At night, Ogata goes to report to Captain Mina Ashiro. He says Ichikawa is perfect to wear number 6. She says she does not want to be responsible for the boy's death. That's why she asked for Ogata's opinion, since he is the most cautious with kaiju weapons. He says he will turn these kids into warriors that will even scare her. This is their destiny as survivors. At the Kanazawa base, the 2nd Division is training, but everyone is shocked when they hear about Ichikawa, especially Kafka, when he learns his friend is risking his life to fight number 9. He tells him it is way too dangerous, but Kikoru slaps him on the back and says not to underestimate Reno. He is a soldier too. Their job is not to worry. It's to figure out what they can do. She starts thinking that she needs to train more to stay stronger than Reno. After that, Kafka goes for a run. He remembers that Ichikawa is truly incredible, making everyone recognize their own power. Unlike him, who without the number 8 Kaiju's power is useless. Then suddenly Vice Captain Hoshina appears, asking what kind of sourpuss face that is, and if he thinks he is going to steal Captain Ashiro from him like that. The Japanese guy shoots forward like a rocket, and in the blink of an eye puts his sword on Kafka's neck. Kafka falls backward, his heart almost jumping out of his chest. Then Hoshina says he finally got his revenge. This was his punishment for hiding who he really was, but actually it was just a rubber sword. The protagonist starts crying, saying he wants to apologize, but the mushroom head says they are even, and he hates sentimental stuff. But he still had one more thing to say. He thanks Kafka for saving the 3rd Division. He is not grateful to Kaiju number 8, but to Kafka Hibino, who had the courage to transform in front of everyone, knowing he would suffer the consequences. He knows that if Kafka keeps transforming, he might not be able to return to human form. He says he will defeat number 9 so Kafka will not have to transform anymore. The protagonist starts crying, saying that Vice Captain pretends to be tough but is actually super kind. He thanks Hoshina, but says it is not enough. He wants to be recognized for his own strength, but unfortunately he is not strong enough to protect anyone. He says he does not want to see his friends crying anymore, so he is going to become number 8 and fight. Hoshina says he was stupid enough to transform in front of the whole division, so of course Kafka will transform to help someone when the time comes. He says there is only one thing to do. Since it is like this, he will make him stronger. He tells Kafka to follow him because he is going to teach him how to fight. They go to a huge temple called Rune, a temple that has existed since the Edo period, dedicated to the victims of the kaijus they faced, including Hoshina's ancestors. He asks if Kafka knows the Meireki Daikaiju. It was a massive disaster that destroyed most of Japan in 1657. Back then, methods to fight kaijus were way more primitive, and that was where the largest number of people died fighting a kaiju. After that, Hoshina starts stripping down and stretching, telling Kafka to attack him with no suit or transformation, just to show how much he has evolved. The protagonist says he will go all out. He throws multiple jabs, but Hoshina dodges and knocks him down with his eyes closed. Kafka knows he cannot win and takes a punch right to the chin, but he is not going to be beaten that easily. He has to show everything he learned in training, but nothing works because everything he tries, Hoshina dodges and counterattacks. The Japanese guy says he got stronger, and Kafka gets pumped up again. You can tell he did not skip a single day of training, but it still is not enough. He takes a hit to the gut and braces himself not to be knocked out, but Hoshina just flicks him, saying he is still the same as before. He still relies too much on number 8's defense, regeneration, and strength, and if he keeps fighting like he has nothing to lose, he is going to die soon. He takes another gut punch, just like the directors. These are combat techniques from the Defense Force style, a hand-to-hand style for fighting anti-kaijus, and director Shinomiya was the one who perfected it. He says Kafka cannot release the combat power of his suit, and learning to use weapons is a waste of time for him. So, until the time comes, Hoshina will at least teach him these techniques. He will make him strong enough so he has to transform as little as possible. He tells him to survive and maybe try to steal his spot next to Captain Ashiro. Kafka starts crying and thanks him, but Hoshina locks him in a chokehold, telling him not to get confident because he will not let him steal his spot. He says they need to go back before the lights go out. While bowing to the temple, Kafka sees the shadow of a creepy samurai. He asks who it is, but Hoshina tells him to go. Then the figure disappears, and Kafka is more confused than a flea on a bald guy. The next day, Atami was watching the fish kaijus while thinking about Director Isao. He kept saying they were running out of time. Meanwhile, Kafka was training alone in the field, practicing how to kill cockroaches. Hoshina told him that the key to Defense Force combat style is in the legs. legs. You generate the power in the legs and then send it to the fists. So the first step was making the body memorize the 5 basic moves. The Japanese guy said he would check in twice a week to see how he was doing, and he would know if Kafka was slacking. While training, Kafka got a cramp and started rolling around like a clumsy dog. Then Kikoru shows up saying Defense Force combat techniques are perfect for someone who cannot handle weapon. Kafka gets mad and tells her to try it too because it is really hard. But she knows all about it because her dad did this every single day. Kafka then says he needs to push himself even harder. And Kikoru notices that he finally overcame what was bothering him. She tells him there is a reward. Kafka thinks he is about to get a big kiss. But nope, it is just his phone they had confiscated. Vice Captain Hasegawa says to give it back. And the blonde girl says it is a good idea to text the team since he hasn't talked to them in ages. So he goes to his room and really wants to talk to them, but he has no idea what to say. It had been almost 2 months since he was kicked out of the squad. Now everyone knows he is Kaiju number 8, and he does not know what they think of him. He turns on his phone, and suddenly 200 notifications start popping up per second. He had 503 unread messages. He imagines everyone is probably calling him a lying monster. Out of nowhere, Ichikawa calls him, and he freaks out and hangs up. Then Iharu calls, and he answers. But then Ichikawa appears, furious, asking why he only answers Iharu. He starts yelling at Kafka, asking if he has chicken brains for disappearing for 2 months. Kafka explains that he was not allowed to contact them, but Reino says he probably did not even try, and he is sure it was Kikoru who got his phone back. Reno says Kafka was very worried, but Kafka was afraid he could never be part of the 3rd Division again. He was scared that everyone would be afraid of him now that they knew he is number 8. Iharu says of course they are scared. After all, his power is not human, it is Kaiju level, but that does not mean they do not like him, especially since he risked his life to save the entire base. After that, no one could say he is not part of the team. Kafka remembers Captain Mina saying that nobody in the 3rd Division sees him as an enemy. Iharu gets mad because he thought they were all that cruel. Ichikawa tells him to trust them more. Everyone believed he would come back. After that, Kikoru calls Kafka for group training, but he complains that Ichikawa and Iharu called him an idiot. Shinomiya freaks out seeing him crying from all the messages of people rooting for him. Kikoru says everyone knows he is dumb, and he cannot believe she thinks he is dumb too. Meanwhile, Director Isao still has some consciousness. He tried to resist, but was at the end of the line. He says the Kaijus are growing far faster than he imagined. After that, many Kaiju start appearing in the city. One huge one appears while a hunter is exploring. Another with 3 faces floats in front of the train station. In the city center, there is even a ballerina Kaiju. Fish rain from the sky, and a couple has to hide under a surfboard because a massive Kaiju is in the sea, devouring everything. Even on the road, a speedster Kaiju is racing against cars. There were 14 unresolved Kaiju incidents in just the last month, and the only thing they had in common is that they all vanished before the Defense Force arrived. Then in Shibuya District, a Kaiju appears looking exactly like Gothic Kikoru, and it is probably number 9 behind this. Researchers say the Kaijus are being created faster than number 10 said, and they need to be ready soon. Hasegawa says they divided the government's main duties and set up backup generators. They reinforced the cities, encouraged preemptive evacuations, and expanded the underground shelter. Everything was going according to plan. But if multiple Kaijus appear like the one that took down Isao so easily, that might not be enough. Director Isao's consciousness was almost gone. Now all he could do was leave things in the hands of Narumi, Captain Ashiro, the young warriors, and most importantly, Kafka. He asked them to save the country's future. Narumi ordered Kikoru to master that weapon, which was already adjusted to her height and attributes. It was number 4, the same weapon that had seen multiple battles and defeated several Kaijus alongside Hikari Shinomiya. Kikoru touches the glass, promising to avenge her father, and prays for strength from her mother. 3 months after those unresolved Kaiju incidents, news started reporting a mysterious drop in attacks. Suddenly, the monsters completely vanished, and it had already been 46 days without a single appearance. Meanwhile, a little girl tells her mom not to worry, because even if number 9 shows up, Uncle Kaiju would come back and finish him. At the Ariake Sea Base, one scientist panics, thinking there is an earthquake, but the other says it is just Captain Narumi and Kikoru training. They go every day to the fortified training room, and it is basically a battle between numbered weapon users. The tension rises when another scientist points out that the fate of the entire country is on the line. At Daiba 2, the 1st and 3rd Divisions open heavy fire during training. The troops arrive with massive cannons, spitting lasers like a futuristic rave. Kafka was in an intense training session with Hoshina. He goes all out, thinking he is crushing it, pumped up saying he finally feels the power. But then Hoshina switches things up, tossing him in the air like a sack of potatoes, saying he still has a long way to go. Kafka gets annoyed, saying that was unnecessary, He wants the vice captain to acknowledge his strength. Kafka heads to the rooftop thinking he will have lunch alone, but finds Mina already sitting there. He tries to sneak away embarrassed, thinking he cannot eat next to the captain, but Mina tells him to stay and says there is no need to be shy. Awkwardly, Kafka compliments her, saying it is exactly what he expected from the most powerful captain in the defense force. So the two end up eating side by side, while she senses that this calm moment is just the silence before the storm. Mina says that the peaceful vibe almost feels like the kaijus vanished for good. Kafka, being a goof, agrees with a smile, but quickly remembers who he is sitting next to and tries to correct himself, calling her ma'am. The captain relaxes, saying it is fine now since it is just the two of them. She talks about when they were kids, how as soon as the alarm went off, Kafka was the first to come and get her to the shelter. She says it was a little embarrassing, but he says she was the vice captain of Kafka's division, so it was normal for him as a captain to worry, right? Mina says that even though she was scared, Kafka was smiling to calm her down. It was like even if a kaiju popped up, he could handle it. For some reason, that made her feel fearless, and she says he is still absolutely amazing. He was the one who saved the Tachikawa base. She says Hoshina told her about his decision. She says she has grown stronger and no longer needs to hide behind him. Then she tells him not to try to carry all the burden alone, because they promised to take down the kaijus together. Kafka smiles, saying she is right, and she goes back to work, saying he has not changed a bit, still smiling, pretending to be brave. The big guy starts wondering if he can actually beat that monster, but he has to win for the future of everyone. Meanwhile, at the train station, two guys try to hit on a girl alone. They invite her to eat and tell her she can bring a friend if she wants, but this was actually the kaiju with Kikoru's skin, saying it was about to call her friends anyway. It transforms into its kaiju form and starts wrecking everyone, piercing through the chests of anyone nearby, and it even signals its companions to attack. The next day, Tokuda's daughter's wedding was going down. The street cleaners were wondering if Kafka was going to show up, and even put a photo in place of his name, but that made it look like the guy had kicked the bucket. So they called Tokuda to escort the bride, and he was a nervous wreck. His daughter looked like a princess, and he was about to cry, but Chieko stepped on his foot and told him to man up. He was more nervous than she was on her own wedding day. The doors swung open, and all the guests clapped, but then a freaking giant kaiju shows up, smashing everything in sight. The Sumida district was already scrambling the defense force, but Tokyo started blowing up notifications, thousands of kaijus popping up all over the place. There was no way to help everyone. At the wedding, chaos erupted. Someone was carrying an injured Tokuda, but out of nowhere, a kaiju smashed through the wall and sent the bride flying. She was about to get devoured on her own wedding day. The kaiju stomped her legs, crushing them. Then Tokuda bites his own arm and screams, "If you want blood, come get mine!" But the kaiju tosses her into the air, ready to swallow her whole. Tokuda panics, but at the last second, Narumi slices that monstrous kaiju into tiny pieces. The agents save the bride, and the captain reports that they arrived just in time. He says the extermination is starting and asks if Ashiro has everything under control. She tells him to mind his own business and do his job. So Japan's defense force goes on the offensive. Atami orders them to release their combat powers. The exterminators start firing everything they've got. Narumi decapitates another kaiju and faces off against 5 more. They surround him, but he wipes them out in the blink of an eye like they're nothing. Hasegawa gives the good and bad news. The good is that the 1st and 3rd divisions are active all over Tokyo, so civilian evacuation is moving faster than expected. Narumi asks about reinforcements, and the bald guy says that's the bad news. Up on a rooftop, Hoshina's brother Soichiro Hoshina reports that the attack is hitting the entire country. They can't send reinforcements to the east, and if they don't protect the newly built Himeji Castle, they're toast. They expected kaijus to appear only in Tokyo, but Number 9's plan was way more advanced. They were popping up all over Japan. The scarred bald guy opens the map and points out that the kaijus aren't attacking randomly. They're targeting humanity's most critical points. He immediately realizes this isn't normal monster behavior, more like pawns being moved on a chessboard. Hasegawa asks what they're gonna do. Narumi fires back. "Obviously, we handle this ourselves." He orders the legendary weapon to be activated. It's a cannon that's been locked away for decades at the Ariake base, from the time Hikari Shinomiya was vice captain. And this isn't just any cannon. It's an exclusive electromagnetic cannon, designed only to be used with Number 4. Kikoru shows up, looking just like her mom back then, and connects to the machine. Trajectory calculated, vitals stable. She's already positioned in the giant cannon, ready to fire a shot that could shake even the toughest kaijus. The cannon fires with a massive boom, cutting through the sky with Kikoru ready to hold the blast. Meanwhile, the base announces that internal pressure is stable, and she'll reach the target zone soon. Kikoru flies full throttle, shields up, and activates Base number 4. The command center was dropping jaws at her speed, saying she's the only numbered kaiju able to fly, which is why Hikari held the record for takedowns among all captains. The soldiers are told to stop shooting at the dinosaur kaiju because she's arriving. Kikaru comes flying in full throttle, ready to obliterate those monsters with her axe. Narumi calls her an idiot and says she has 10 minutes to handle things over there, but he knows she only needs 5. The platoons kick off Phase 2 and start backing up Shinomiya. She splits another kaiju down the middle, and they warn that using explosive ammo without care could backfire, so they swap to freezing rounds to immobilize the target. They pin the kaiju's foot to the ground, and she smashes it hard. She's moving so fast the soldiers can barely keep up. They say she's at the same level as a full captain. The bald guy notes she inherited her dad's brute force and her mom's agility. He says she's basically a combo of both parents. In under a minute, Officer Shinomiya took down 3 targets that the troops were struggling to even scratch. Captain Ashiro says Chofu is secured. Konomi reports the muscle fibers and uni organs are functioning normally. Then they start activating number 10. The kaiju shouts that it's finally its time to fight and tells Hoshina to let it take control of the body. But the Japanese captain tells it to shut up. He's the one in charge here. He asks Konomi why the suit is talking, because you can't really work with a suit running its mouth like a parrot. She explains that since this is the first kaiju weapon with a mind of its own, they need a voice comm system. Plus, being a prototype, it might be too early to use. Hoshina says it's a calculated risk to surprise number 9, and number 10 agrees it's a good choice. But Mushroomhead warns that if they fail today, it dies, and the kaiju suit goes in the trash. Number 10 says it gets it and rips a hole in the helicopter floor, but apparently it didn't understand a thing. Konomi yells that the plan hasn't even started yet, but the suit insists it's more fun this way. Hoshina drops into a kaiju-filled area and says he's going to show who's boss. He decides to take out the left side monsters first, since there are fewer. But number 10 thinks otherwise and heads right, almost crushing him. Hoshina asks if it's dumb because logically they should take the weaker ones first, but the kaiju complains it's boring since it can handle the stronger ones on the right anyway. Another kaiju pops up behind them, and Hoshina says he'll go between its legs to grab it from behind. But number 10 wants to test its power and makes them eat the full force attack. Now they're surrounded, and the damn weapon starts laughing, saying, "Now this is fun." Their synchronization is garbage, and their combat power drops from 51% to 41%. Konomi tells Hoshina to pull back for now and switch to a regular suit, but those kaijus are way too fast, and he can't escape in the normal gear. They reach a stalemate again, and a kaiju falls on them, blasting everything. The operator says it's fine. They have number 10's vitals. It says they survived only because number 10 absorbed the impact. Hoshina comments that if it had obeyed from the start, they wouldn't be in this mess. He asks why it always gets involved with idiots who never know when to quit. Disobeying orders is a fatal flaw for a weapon. If it keeps this up, it's going in the trash. But it can't die here. Today is the day it adapts to number 10's style. Combat power ramps up again, and now they're going head to head. They smash the first one in half and charge the rest at once to savor the disadvantage. Number 10 shouts that this is way more fun, and they can win even when outnumbered. A full frontal, utterly crushing victory. But while number 10's screaming like a maniac, Hoshina points out he's moving way too slow. He already cleaned up everyone's solo. Now it's time to clear the field. Number 10's power is exploding, hitting 67%, the highest ever recorded. But Hoshina doesn't care and unleashes the second extermination technique, a crosscut so insane even the kaiju blinks in shock at the speed. He says, "Don't even think about dodging," and tells number 10 to brace for impact. Then number 10 just slams it with the tail and asks if he isn't awesome. Hoshina says fail. Chunks are falling off. Konomi warns not to provoke the crazy suit, but actually, combat power just keeps climbing, now hitting 70%. They spot the boss in the back, and this time think together. Frontal attack and block all other strikes. Hoshina uses the first Hoshina-style technique, Void Strike, to shred the first sucker. Meanwhile, number 10 blocks attacks from behind. Hoshina counterattacks and decapitates another kaiju. Number 10 vents all his rage on the kaijus chasing them. Now it's time to end this once and for all. Hoshina unleashes the 6th technique, his body buzzing with energy. This is the same move he used to defeat number 10 himself. Muscles feel like they might tear. Number 10 says he really loves fighting Hoshina. Hoshina goes full multi-strike, shredding the kaiju like it's a Lego boat. The researchers cheer, saying now it's just the terminal left. Soldiers note the vice captain looks like a monster even worse than the kaijus. Hoshina says they're going after the kaijus outside now, but But number 10 gets hyped, screaming it's time to exterminate the soldiers. The vice captain asks why the hell he'd attack his own troops. They bicker again, because the kaiju wants to fight literally everything. Once they adapt, they'll be true monsters with 77% combat power. The operators report Hoshina freed the Chofu airport. Narumi can only imagine Mushroom Head's smug face. Now only Oizumi remains, under the charge of Lieutenant Shinonome and Tachibana. 6 massive kaijus there, and traffic is a nightmare. Kafka begs Shinonome to let him go front line. He's never fought one this big, but he's sure he can handle it. The lieutenant says no, he must stay in the rear. He's their secret weapon against number 9. He only appeared because Kafka partially transformed in Shinagawa. If he transforms fully, they risk him popping up again, so he'll only fight when number 9 appears. But Kafka asks how they're supposed to handle these monsters. The giant kaiju shifts shape, and its internal temperature spikes. It fires a massive energy sphere that slams straight into the city. But Mina tells everyone to prepare for attack, and Kafka recognizes her voice. She readies a giant bazooka to obliterate those bastards. Man, this episode was insane. Will the boss, Kaiju number 9, show up and prove what a truly powerful kaiju looks like? If you want me to drop the next episode as soon as it comes out, smash that like button and subscribe so we hit 100,000 subs by the end of the year. Only 67,500 to go, I believe. Check out the next insane video on the screen. I am out for now. Thanks and see you next time.